You're not lazy. You're not broken. You've just been lied to. Waiting for motivation, it's a trap. Chasing comfort, that's how dreams die quietly. Every second you hesitate feeds regret, weakness, and stagnation. The truth, action creates motivation, not the other way around. Discipline isn't a skill, it's a weapon. If you've ever wondered how unstoppable people force themselves to move without feeling ready, without hesitation, you're about to learn the brutal, liberating formula. This isn't hype, it's survival. Move or be crushed. In a few moments, I'll teach you how to force yourself to take action. No motivation, no hesitation, just execution. The illusion of motivation. Motivation is the greatest lie ever sold. It's the drug that society feeds you to keep you stuck, waiting, hoping, fantasizing about change while doing absolutely nothing to create it. You've been conditioned to believe that successful people are somehow endlessly motivated, that they spring out of bed every morning fueled by an infinite well of inspiration. But that is a myth, a dangerous, deceptive myth designed to keep you weak. Because the harsh truth is this: waiting for motivation is the fastest way to guarantee that you never move. Look around. How many people do you know who say, "I'll start when I feel ready," or "I'm waiting for the right mood," or "I just need to get motivated first"? Where are they now? Still waiting, still stuck, still fantasizing while life passes them by. This is the trap, the illusion that motivation is a requirement for action. It's not. It never was. Motivation is a feeling, and like all feelings, it's unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. If you anchor your life to it, you will be a prisoner of inconsistency forever. Here's the brutal reality most people don't want to hear. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck isn't motivation, it's discipline. It's the ability to act regardless of how you feel. Discipline doesn't care about moods, about inspiration, about whether you're tired, stressed, bored, or unmotivated. Discipline simply says, I don't care how you feel, do it anyway. The disciplined person wakes up and takes action, not because they are always motivated, but because they understand that action isn't optional, it's mandatory. The truth that society avoids telling you is this: action creates motivation, not the other way around. Think about it. How many times have you forced yourself to go to the gym, work on a project, or tackle a task you didn't want to start, only to notice that within minutes of doing it, your energy shifted, you felt better, clearer, more driven? That's not a coincidence. That's the formula. Movement precedes motivation. You don't wait to feel like doing it. You start doing it, and then the feeling catches up. Successful people, those who dominate in business, in fitness, in life, they don't rely on fleeting bursts of motivation. They've trained themselves to act regardless. They know that waiting to feel like it is a child's game. They've burned the idea of motivation to the ground and replaced it with relentless execution. They don't ask themselves, do I feel like it today? They ask what needs to be done, and then they do it, period. If you want to reclaim your power, you must kill the illusion of motivation right now. Understand deeply that motivation is not a prerequisite for action. It is a byproduct of action. Discipline is what drags you out of bed when your mind screams for comfort. Discipline is what builds the body, the business, the life. Discipline doesn't negotiate, it commands. And when you stop waiting for motivation and start moving anyway, something incredible happens. The fog lifts, the momentum builds, and the person you always wanted to become, you start to become them. Not because you felt like it, but because you acted despite how you felt. That is where real power lives. The enemy, comfort. Comfort is the most seductive enemy you will ever face. It doesn't scream, it doesn't threaten, it doesn't come at you with warning signs. No, comfort whispers, it lulls you, it seduces you with softness, ease, and the false promise of safety. And before you even realize what's happening, it has its claws deep in your mind. Comfort convinces you that slowing down is okay, that skipping today's work won't matter, that resting just a little longer is justified. It tells you that tomorrow is a better day to start. And while you sit, waiting, relaxing, easing into softness, it kills your dreams silently. What makes comfort so dangerous is that it disguises itself as self-care, as deserved rest, as being kind to yourself. But there's a difference between intentional recovery and lazy indulgence. Comfort doesn't care about that line. It feeds on your desire for relief. And every time you choose comfort over growth, your mind rewires itself. Neurons strengthen that say avoid effort, stay safe, stay still. Your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Your capacity for challenge decays. And what once was merely a skipped workout, a postponed goal, a delayed decision, slowly becomes your identity. You become someone who waits, someone who procrastinates, someone who lives their entire life in avoidance of discomfort. The brain is efficient. It adapts to whatever you repeatedly do. If you constantly choose comfort, it will reshape itself to make avoiding effort the default. Suddenly, even the smallest tasks feel overwhelming. The mountain grows taller. The climb feels steeper. What others handle with ease begins to feel impossible for you. Not because it is impossible, but because you've trained your mind to retreat at the first sign of resistance. Comfort becomes the cage you willingly built, and now you can't even imagine what life outside of it looks like. Seeking comfort is not harmless. Seeking comfort is seeking weakness. It's a declaration, silent but powerful, that you are choosing softness over strength, ease over growth, safety over greatness. And every day you make that choice, you step further away from the person you could be. You surrender potential for the illusion of peace. But it's a hollow peace, a temporary relief that comes with a devastating long-term cost. Regret, because comfort now leads to pain later. Always. The people who dominate life, who win at every level, understand this truth better than anyone. Comfort is the enemy. They don't seek it. They don't crave it. They learn to despise it. Instead of asking, how can I make this easier? They ask, how can I make myself stronger? Where others avoid difficulty, they chase it, because they understand that growth lives in discomfort, that strength is forged in resistance, that the life they want is on the other side of what's hard. You cannot build an extraordinary life on a foundation of comfort. Comfort breeds softness. Softness breeds weakness, and weakness guarantees a life of mediocrity. If you truly want change, you must rewire your mind to crave discomfort, to lean into the hard, to reject the easy path. Because comfort isn't just the killer of dreams, it's the executioner of potential, the pain of inaction. There is a kind of suffering that doesn't scream. It doesn't leave bruises or scars you can show to the world. It lingers quietly beneath the surface, creeping into your mind in the stillness of the night. It's the heaviness you feel when you know, deep down, that you are capable of more but still refuse to move. This is the pain of inaction, the slow, suffocating agony of watching your potential rot while you do nothing about it. It is a weight that grows heavier with every missed opportunity, every delayed decision, every excuse you whisper to justify standing still. Most people think action is hard. They look at the effort, the discomfort, the sacrifice required, and convince themselves that moving forward is painful. But what they never fully understand until it's too late is that inaction hurts far more. It's a different kind of pain. It's quieter, more subtle, but infinitely more destructive, because the pain of action is temporary soreness, fatigue, a few moments of discomfort, but the pain of inaction, that's permanent. It festers, it lingers, it becomes regret, and regret has a way of haunting you long after the moment has passed. Nothing stings worse than looking back on months, years, even decades, and realizing that the only thing standing between you and the life you wanted was your refusal to act. Not bad luck, not lack of opportunity, not some external force, just you choosing comfort, choosing hesitation, choosing fear. And as time passes, the gap between who you are and who you could have been grows wider. You begin to feel it like a phantom limb, the constant ache of potential wasted, of chances never taken. Regret isn't loud at first. It starts as a whisper, a quiet discomfort when you see someone else doing what you always wanted to do, a little sting when you watch someone living a life you told yourself was impossible. But that whisper grows. With every day you fail to act, it gets louder. It shows up as frustration, as anxiety, as depression, as restlessness that no distraction, no entertainment, no temporary pleasure can silence. Because deep down, your mind knows when you are betraying yourself, and it punishes you with the slow drip of regret. But there is another side to this pain. It can break you, or it can forge you. The very discomfort you feel from doing nothing can become the fuel that forces you to change. If you let it, the pain of inaction can become the most powerful catalyst for transformation. Because once you truly feel the cost of standing still, once you face the reality that time is passing and no one is coming to save you, you either drown in that realization or you rise. You weaponize it. You let that pain remind you that the price of waiting is always higher than the price of doing. And when you finally decide to move, to act, to fight, you'll realize that nothing is more painful than a life wasted on hesitation. The discipline-first mentality. Discipline is the dividing line between those who merely dream and those who actually achieve. It's the brutal truth that most people refuse to accept because discipline isn't sexy, it isn't flashy, it doesn't rely on feel-good quotes or waiting for the perfect mood to strike. Discipline doesn't care about how you feel. It doesn't ask for permission. It simply demands one thing: action. Relentless, non-negotiable, consistent action. This is why discipline will always beat motivation, because motivation is a visitor. It comes and goes as it pleases. But discipline is a permanent resident in the mind of anyone who wins. The world has sold you the lie that you must be inspired to move, that you should feel excited about the grind, that it should feel good. But winners don't wait to feel anything. They have killed that idea completely because they understand that feelings are irrelevant. If you only act when you feel like it, you lose. It's that simple. Discipline means you show up when you're tired. You show up when you're bored. You show up when every part of your mind is begging for rest, for distraction, for anything except the hard thing in front of you. And still, you do it anyway. The disciplined don't operate on emotional weather patterns. They don't check in with themselves each morning to see whether they feel like executing. Their internal dialogue is not one of negotiation, but one of command. It doesn't matter how I feel. The work gets done. This is the discipline-first mentality. It's ruthless, it's unforgiving, but it's the only formula that works. Because life doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. The reality is that discipline is freedom. People think discipline is restriction, that it's this rigid, miserable existence. They couldn't be more wrong. The undisciplined are the ones who suffer, trapped in cycles of procrastination, regret, and unfulfilled potential. The disciplined are free from chaos, free from the mental torture of knowing they're capable of more but doing less, free because their life is built on self-respect, the deepest kind there is. When you live by discipline, you trust yourself. You know that no matter what, you will do what needs to be done. And here's the formula that the successful live by. Feelings are irrelevant. Action is mandatory. This is the law. This is the line in the sand. You no longer give your feelings a seat at the decision-making table. You no longer care whether you're inspired. You move. You execute. You act. Because the work demands it. Because your goals demand it. Because the version of you that's buried underneath your excuses deserves to be pulled to the surface. Discipline isn't just about doing the work when it's hard. It's about doing it especially when it's hard, because that's when it counts. That's when you separate yourself from the masses. Most people live at the mercy of their emotions. The disciplined live in control of theirs, and in that control lies every victory you've ever wanted. Kill overthinking. Overthinking is the most sophisticated form of self-sabotage. It disguises itself as intelligence, as caution, as preparation. It makes you feel like you're being productive when in reality you're drowning in mental quicksand. The mind whispers, let me just figure this out a bit more. I need to make sure it's the perfect time. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work? And while you sit there tangled in your own thoughts, life keeps moving. Opportunities slip away, momentum dies, and you become a prisoner of your own mind. This is the brutal truth that few are willing to confront. Overthinking is not problem solving. It's procrastination dressed up as logic. Most people don't realize that overthinking is simply fear with better PR. It's fear pretending to be responsible, pretending to be strategic. But at its core, it's the mind's most effective trick to keep you paralyzed. It convinces you that more thinking leads to better results. But in reality, it leads to no results at all. It feeds you endless questions without answers. It creates imaginary problems, hypothetical disasters, and phantom obstacles that don't even exist yet, if they ever will. The more you think, the heavier everything feels. The task grows larger in your mind. The starting line drifts further away, and before you know it, you've talked yourself out of doing the very thing that would have changed your life. Momentum dies in hesitation. The longer you sit in thought, the harder it becomes to move. Action has a window. There's a critical moment right after the idea strikes when you have to move before the mind catches up and starts flooding you with doubt, excuses, and reasons to stay still. This is how the mind works. It prioritizes comfort and safety above all else. The moment you present it with something challenging, uncertain, or risky, it immediately begins constructing arguments against it. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I need to learn more. Maybe tomorrow would be better. It sounds rational, but it's a lie. A beautifully packaged lie that has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. The ones who win in life understand this mental game. They know the rule. Act before your brain talks you out of it. The thought comes, the idea sparks, the impulse hits, and they move immediately. No overthinking, no analysis paralysis, no negotiation. Because they've learned that thinking about it for too long is the fastest way to kill the fire before it turns into action. If you want freedom, if you want momentum, if you want results, you have to develop a bias toward action. You have to catch yourself when the mind starts spinning stories and shut it down with movement. Move first, think later. Let the feedback come from reality, not from the imaginary disasters in your head. Because the truth is, most of the things you fear won't happen. The obstacles you think exist dissolve the moment you step toward them. Overthinking is the enemy of execution, and execution is the only path to transformation. Build a bias toward action. If you want to change your life, there is one skill you must master above all else: the ability to act without hesitation. A bias toward action isn't just a habit, it's an identity. It's the transformation from someone who lives in their head, endlessly analyzing, endlessly waiting, endlessly thinking, into someone who executes, someone who moves. Because the world doesn't reward those who think about doing. It rewards those who do. The difference between the person who wins and the one who watches is simple: movement. Most people don't realize that hesitation is a habit. It gets reinforced every single time you pause, every time you wait for more certainty, every time you convince yourself that now isn't the right time. The brain is always watching what you do. If you repeatedly hesitate, the brain learns that hesitation is your normal response to challenge. You train yourself into delay. You condition yourself to stop when it should be go. And with every repetition, the gap between thinking and doing grows wider. It becomes the new default, one that locks you in a prison of stagnation. But here's the truth that few understand. Just as hesitation can be trained, so can action. You can rewire your mind to associate discomfort with movement rather than avoidance. You can teach your nervous system that the moment resistance shows up, that's the exact signal to move, not to freeze. You do it by killing the micro moments of delay. The split second where the mind starts whispering maybe later, you crush it with immediate action. Not tomorrow, not in an hour, now. This is how you override the mental programming that's kept you stuck. Building a bias toward action starts with rejecting the idea that you need to feel ready. You must burn the lie that says clarity comes before movement. The reality is simple. Clarity is the reward for action, not the prerequisite. You figure it out by doing, not by thinking. Every time you force yourself to move before you feel like it, you lay down a new neural pathway. The brain starts learning that hesitation is no longer the default. Action is, movement is, progress is, and the more you practice this, the faster the mind starts rewiring. Eventually it stops questioning, stops overanalyzing, and starts reacting with immediate forward momentum. The reflex shifts from can I or should I to go. That's who you become, someone who doesn't negotiate with themselves, someone who doesn't wait for the perfect mood, someone who doesn't let fear, doubt, or resistance set the pace. Kill hesitation, kill delay, move. Let the discomfort become the green light, not the stop sign. Let the doubt fuel the action, not suffocate it. Because the reality is simple. The people who win are not the ones who think the most, plan the most, or prepare the most. They are the ones who step into the unknown, who move into the resistance, who train their minds to fire without delay. They are the ones who have built a bias toward action, and because of that, the world bends to them. Make discomfort your default. Discomfort is the dividing line between the life you have and the life you want. Most people spend their entire existence running from it, avoiding it at all costs, treating it like something to be feared. But those who rise, those who dominate in any area of life, have learned a truth that the masses never grasp. Discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the compass. It's the signal. It's the clearest indicator of where growth lives. The places that scare you, the tasks that make you hesitate, the challenges that make your stomach twist, that's where your evolution waits. And the faster you train yourself to stop avoiding those moments and instead lean directly into them, the faster you separate yourself from everyone who never will. Training yourself to crave discomfort is a deliberate act of rebellion against the weakness the world wants you to adopt. You do it by rewiring your mind to interpret resistance, not as a barrier, but as a signal. When something feels hard, when fear creeps in, when every part of you wants to back off, that's the green light. In the moment you lean in, not step back, You stop asking yourself whether you feel like doing it, whether it's convenient, whether it's easy. You erase those questions from your vocabulary. The only question that matters is, does this make me uncomfortable? If the answer is yes, you go. You move toward it with intention, with aggression, with purpose. Over time, this becomes your operating system. Discomfort stops feeling threatening. It starts feeling familiar. It starts feeling like home. You begin to crave it because you understand that every time you lean into it, you walk out the other side stronger, sharper, more dangerous. The tasks others avoid become the very tasks that sharpen you. Where they retreat, you advance. Where they seek relief, you seek the next battle. The weak avoid discomfort and pay for it with mediocrity. The strong chase it and are rewarded with mastery. You have to decide who you're going to be. Discomfort is not a punishment. It's the path. It's the proving ground. It's the gate you must walk through every single day if you ever want to become the version of yourself that lives on the other side of fear. Make discomfort your default. Where it points, you go. Every time. No exceptions. Break the perfect moment myth. The perfect moment is a lie. A beautifully crafted illusion designed to keep you stuck exactly where you are. It's the mind's most clever excuse, disguised as patience, wrapped in the language of logic. You tell yourself, I'll start when things calm down, when I have more time, when I feel ready, when everything aligns. But the brutal truth is this: the right time never comes. It never has, and it never will. Life doesn't hand out perfect conditions. It doesn't pause the chaos, the uncertainty, or the resistance just because you decided you're finally ready to move. The people who wait for the perfect moment never get started. And if they do, it's already too late. Every second you spend waiting for some magical alignment is a second you willingly surrender to weakness. The need for perfection is nothing more than fear in disguise. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort. You convince yourself that waiting is responsible, that it's the smart move. But really, it's just a sophisticated form of procrastination, a justification to avoid the very thing you know you need to do. And as you wait, momentum dies. The window starts to close. The distance between who you are and who you could have been widens. Here's what winners know that most will never accept. The best time to start is always now, not because the conditions are right, but because they never will be. Progress belongs to those who take messy, imperfect, relentless action. The first steps will be ugly, the process will be chaotic, you will stumble, you will fail, you will make mistakes, and none of that matters. Because perfection isn't the goal, movement is. The ones who succeed are not the ones who did it perfectly. They're the ones who showed up when it was hard, when it was uncertain, when it was uncomfortable, and did it anyway. Waiting for the right time is the fastest way to guarantee that time will pass you by. You will wake up a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, realizing that the window you were waiting for never opened because it never existed. The ones who win don't ask for the perfect moment. They create momentum despite the mess. They move forward when they're tired, when they're scared, when they're uncertain, when they feel like quitting. And every step they take, no matter how sloppy, compounds into strength. You have to decide what matters more, looking polished or making progress, because you don't get both. You either embrace the chaos and move, or sit frozen waiting for conditions that will never exist. The perfect moment isn't coming. No one is coming to tell you it's time. There will never be less risk, less fear, or less uncertainty. There is only now, and now is enough. Take the leap, take the swing, take the step. Messy, flawed, relentless action will always beat perfect inaction, every single time. How to start when you don't feel like it. There will always be days when the weight of resistance feels suffocating, days when every fiber of your body screams for comfort, when your mind invents 1,000 rational reasons to delay, when the idea of starting feels heavier than the task itself. But here's the truth that high performers understand better than anyone else. Waiting to feel like it is a losing strategy. The mind will rarely hand you the perfect mental state on a silver platter. If you want to win, you have to stop relying on how you feel and start relying on your ability to bypass resistance altogether. The real battle is never the task itself. It's the start. It's the first step, the first 5 minutes. That is where resistance lives. Once momentum takes over, the task becomes easier. But getting past that initial wall is where most people lose. They stare at the mountain, paralyzed, overwhelmed, convincing themselves that they don't have the energy, the focus, the willpower, and so they wait. But the longer they wait, the heavier it becomes. The antidote to this isn't some magic burst of motivation. It's strategy. It's understanding that the brain is like a stubborn machine, one that responds not to negotiation but to momentum. The key is to lower the entry barrier so far that the mind has no room to fight back. You don't commit to running 10 miles. You commit to putting on your shoes. You don't commit to writing an entire chapter. You commit to opening your laptop and writing one sentence. This is the concept of micro starts, the hidden weapon of the disciplined. The mind's resistance isn't to the entire task. It's to the idea of starting. Once you're in motion, the mind adapts. The fog lifts. What felt impossible 5 minutes ago suddenly feels manageable, even easy. Micro starts trick the brain. They disarm the resistance by reframing the task from overwhelming to insignificant. You give yourself permission to do the smallest version of the task, not as a cop-out, but as a Trojan horse for action. Because the moment you start, the mind shifts gears. It realizes the thing you were avoiding isn't nearly as painful as the endless cycle of avoidance. The dread dissolves. The momentum builds, and before you know it, you've blown past the minimum and into real productive effort. This is how the disciplined override the trap of not feeling like it. They don't wait to change their mood. They change their mood by moving. They create psychological momentum by focusing only on the first tiny step, knowing